We are live. We're live. We weren't live, and now we are live.
And we are live.
Yes, we are.
It's very much the same as before, but now we're live. So welcome, Jacob and Evan. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Yeah, as well as can be expected.
Okay, that's good. We're all alive. That's important. Jacob went to the Wrigley home opener.
Yes.
And we were talking about that, but what do you think? Good experience. You said it was cold.
Yeah. I was there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I saw the whole Padres series. It was nice. Good to get away and get off work for the weekend, hang out with some friends. So it was a fun experience. The hot dogs have gone up in price, so that was not ideal.
Really? From just last year?
Yeah, everything's gone up in price. I mean, it's just hot chocolate was like $10. Hot dog was like 12 after tax. The beer, although I did not consume any, has gone up in price. Now that's sitting around like $18, $20, especially after a tip.
Ridiculous.
Everything is, and again, that probably more depends on how much you tip, but most people are going to give a tip. So yeah, it's just everything's really expensive. I tried to eat outside of the ballpark, but it was fun. I mean, you can't beat being back in Wrigley. You really can't.
So do we think that having those higher prices gives them a better opportunity to break even or no?
That's all going to Colin Ray. There was a sign that said hot dog prices going to Colin Ray. So we're good there.
There were posts in the off season about, and there always are, about how high the prices are at Wrigley, and it wasn't enough. And so Ricketts is like, here, hold my beer and take care of that because it's really expensive. And I'm going to increase prices even more just to show everybody that Cubs fans are definitely paying more than anyone else.
Yeah,
it does lend a lot of credence to the inability to maybe sign Kyle Tucker long term. You know what I mean? Like that's look, and what's funny. So I should note this. Like, so is my mic hot? By the way, I mean I know we're live, but is this mic hot?
Oh, it's hot. No, that's hot.
Okay, it's coming through. It's just coming through different in my headphones. But when Jacob and I were on here, when we did the show, that got clipped, and we have a reel on Facebook of that. Of me kind of bitching about the Cubs being only at 36% of revenue from last year going toward payroll, and it cracked me up how many people were taking me to task over that because they're like, but they're winning. And I'm like, folks, if we're happy with just good enough, like if that's, but we're winning, what's the bullpen been doing, right? Where were some areas they could have spent? My tune will change, right? If $500 million goes to Kyle Tucker, but when we're looking around at like the Toronto freaking Blue Jays being able to put $500 million into one of their superstars, and when the Cubs are charging the prices they're charging for seats and all the beer and hot dogs and all that stuff, right? And again, I am not so naive as to think that ticket prices and beer prices directly impact the payroll. Those are not a one-to-one relationship. I understand that. But the point is that if you are going to charge a premium price for your product, that was very alliterative, you damn well better give us premium baseball players to go and watch and pay those prices for. And again, Kyle Tucker's there this year regardless, but that dude needs to be there for many, many years to come. And if that's the case, then they can easily justify charging higher prices and doing some of those things. But that's the part that bothers me. And it also bothers me that people can't wrap their heads around that people are okay being like, yeah, I'm cool with Ricketts pocketing all this extra money. If that's the deal, that it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, well, and also on that reel, there was a few comments about your hat, which I thought was really funny. I don't remember what the exact comment was, but Blake and I were like, the very first comment was about his hat. It wasn't, hey, the Cubs payroll. It was, look at this dude's hat. It was it was a good hat, but that's what stuck out to people.
Right, that I also spent a premium price for, or the website did. But that was not those fitted 5950s are expensive. My God, and it's like, again, just like the beer, just like the hot dog. We're complaining about it. It's like, and then I'm wearing it. You know what I mean? It's like man, that's too expensive. I won't get it. Like people are still going to buy this stuff, and that's the thing. So we're all suckers, right? We're bitching about it and then still doing it at the same time. What are you going to do?
And the prices are up. I did want to talk about Crane Kenny went on the broadcast on, I believe it was Saturday. And obviously I was at the game, so I just read on Twitter about this. But he mentioned how they've sold more of those blue alternate jerseys in the first week. Was it in the first week than they did of the Wrigleyville in a year or in a month?
Something like
it
that.
was something insane. They are selling well, and you could tell all of Wrigley was light blue. It was this baby blue. People love these jerseys. Blake and I talked about it on our space last Sunday, and we're like, these are some of the best Cubs jerseys that we've ever seen. Now, clearly, I haven't seen that many different Cubs jerseys, but even of seeing pictures of older ones, these are really, really cool. I walked into the record store that they had, Landmark Records, which is a really neat store they have in Gallagher Way. And of course, they're selling that stuff. It was full. I mean, that was full. The team stores were full. Everywhere you looked, people were buying this new merchandise, which is like $800 a jersey. Not really, but it felt like it when I was like, hey, I kind of want one.
Close.
And then I looked at the price tag and I'm like, never mind.
The authentic ones are like $500 though. They really like the Nike, like the on-field authentic, which is,
and that's insane.
Yeah, it is. That's like a good $200 more. Like I've spent a lot of the Mitchell and Ness, like the old, like those throwback jerseys, the quality on them is insane too. Like those are heavy. Like you can tell those things are legit. But to spend $500 on a jersey that you could very well end up spilling beer and mustard on, right?
Well, you should.
Game. Yeah, may as well. I mean, it's a souvenir, right? It proves you were there. It's like the stamp of authenticity. But like they're printing money, right? They are absolutely printing. And here's the thing I'll go back to on that too is think about like when the Cubs are good, right? And this happened. There were stretches the last 2 years. They finished with 83 wins, but there were stretches where they played really, really well, right? There were also stretches where they didn't play so well, and you could see that in the crowd. And of course, the weather kept a lot of people out. You know, this past week, like a Wednesday night against the Rangers when it's 35 degrees out or whatever, obviously not real conducive to it. So we can't really look at that, but they are making a bunch of money. And I look at a dude, again, a guy like Tucker, a legit superstar in his prime, who you can lock up, a guy who's better than, or at least as good at, if not better than anybody they've had in the last 20 years. I mean, we're talking like peak Chris Bryant, first 3 years. That's what Tucker is, if not maybe even a little bit.
He's probably better.
Well, at least so far, it's
yeah.
We still have some room to run on this one, right?
Sure,
but,
and that's
so far so
like,
good.
How much more money do you make when you have someone like that who keeps you constantly competitive? Not to mention now that allows them that much more margin for error to bring some of the young guys up, right? To balance that stuff out, to have the excitement of young players coming in. Maybe you can figure some things out. Maybe they actually develop a pitcher in Cade Horton. I guess Justin Steele counts when he's healthy.
Well, and
this is the problem. There's so much to it. It bothers me.
It's the problem with waiting to sign Tucker or waiting to extend him, or waiting to even try, I guess, is that now he's off to this crazy hot start. He already got 1.2 WAR. What is it? 2 weeks into the season? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's not getting any cheaper.
No, he's not. Especially after spring, like this. But that's my favorite part about it is like people acting surprised. Like, look, I don't know if anybody.
There were a lot of people.
Oh no, and that's what's funny. It's like, oh, this guy sucks. But that, to me, that is a testament to everything we've talked about since the moment they even started thinking about the trade for him, right? That everybody kind of manifested, it felt like. But yeah, the dude is so overlooked. Most Cubs fans had no idea. Like, they had maybe heard of him because of his time with the Astros. But again, you look at him as they've never actually watched him play. And so when you saw him in spring training, it's no different from seeing a prospect for the first time in spring training and being like, oh, this guy's not even any good. What's all the hype? And then it's like, folks, let's go ahead and lean on the track record. And sure enough, right out the gate. And guys, they're playing, the games at Wrigley have been cold and blustery, and it's been kind of damp. And it's like he and Dansby Swanson, some other guys are putting up some huge numbers. Seiya Suzuki, when he's not striking out every third time at bat, is really doing well. I'm feeling pretty good about what happens when the sun finally starts shining and the balls start flying a little bit. That's going to be real. Like, they're doing this in April. what happens in June and July? Like that could be really sexy.
Yeah, the offense is hot. I mean, we're one of the best offenses in baseball, whether you look at like pretty much any stat. The Cubs are near the top of the leaderboard, but you can score 85 runs a game. If you're giving up 86, does it really matter?
Yeah,
Well, they've scored
their
96 runs scored, which is tops in all of baseball. 68 runs against, which is third highest in all of baseball. But their run differential is plus 28, and that's best in baseball. And so, man, I'll tell you, if they had some pitching, wow, it would be just incredible. That run differential would be, 40, because they've given up a lot of runs.
I feel like at least 60 of those 68 have been given up by Nate Pearson and Ryan Presley.
No,
that's probably unfair, but
and Eli Morgan.
Yeah,
true.
That's like, again, right? Like you can't throw your best relievers every single game. We all know that, but it's problematic. Like I really feel like there's a point at which some dudes you look at and their hiccups and things like that. But I'm looking at a guy like Pearson. Like I don't know what they need to do there, but the guy routinely throws 100 miles an hour. The problem is it just feels like he's either throwing it dead down the middle or he's missing the zone with uncompetitive pitches, and it's one or the other. So now, what does that lead to? Walks and really hard hits, and that's tough to watch.
Yeah, that's about all that he's been good at this year is that fastball velo. He's walking 10.8% of his opponents. He's only striking out 13.5. That's 15th percentile. His whiff rate is in the 6th percentile. He has one of the worst whiff rates in baseball. People are making contact, and when they make contact, they're going to hit it hard. They're barreling up half of his pitches. That's not good for a reliever. Like, that is not good.
That's not good for us.
It's not. His barrel rate is the 53rd percentile. And if you look at Porter Hodge, then, just for comparison, his barrel rate is in the 77th percentile. It says, if Baseball Savant's correct, it says he hasn't given up a barrel all year. So that's a bad example. But still, Porter Hodge, good player. There's a comment on YouTube. It mentions David Robertson. What's happening with him? Because John Heyman tweeted about like 8 different players today that he probably got texts from the agents like, hey, tweet about them. David Robertson was one of them. So probably from David Robertson himself. Is he retiring? Because if not, you figure the Cubs would have looked into this as an option by now, right?
I mean, they supposedly had earlier, right? Like that was Bruce Levine was talking about. There were other things like they were circling that. And then was that before they got Ryan Brazier? Is that kind of the move that of pushed him out on, which again, I mean, we'll see. My hope is that his injury there is kind of what was leading to the poor performance in spring training. But like at this point, you figure, I mean, Andrew Chafin did a minor league deal. Can you not get, I mean, would Robertson be willing to do that? I mean, I know that's kind of tough, but it's like,
at least he's playing.
The other option is to be unemployed, I mean, maybe, but is he going? I will say this, on that front, I can't tell you how glad I was when the report came out that Lance Lynn was retiring after Bob Nightingale had said the Cubs were like down the road. I was like, that, I know, Jacob, like you're anti-Colin Ray. I would have absolutely lost my shit if they had actually signed Lance Lynn like that. I could, just the fact that they were entertaining, and it wasn't just Nightingale. Like there had been multiple other reports that he was one of the people that teams were kind of circling around with the Cubs being one of them. Now, how much of that was for leverage, I don't know, but I also feel like they sent up that trial balloon and it just fell flat. And then he's like, man, JK, LMFAO retiring, I'm just like, what are we doing here, man? But anyway, I'm
so many times. Yes, I mean, he jumped the gun on the Presley thing too. Presley, who was like, hey, Presley's a Cub. And then everyone's like, no, he's not yet. It's not done. And then 3 days later. And then when he said that for the Lance Lynn, sure seemed like that was leverage of some sort, whether it was leverage for another pitcher or leverage from the Cubs being like, hey, if you don't lower your price, we'll just sign Lance Lynn, even though I don't think that was ever really truly in the equation for him or Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, like that's important. Like okay, buddy. You know what I mean? Like that's one of those empty threats. You're like, go on ahead. You good job, Cubs. Woo! You really burned us there on that.
Yeah, so exciting.
Although Lynn still throws as hard as anybody else in their rotation other than Ben Brown. So I'd still like to see some moves made there. But anyway, I'm carrying us too far afield, I think. But I don't know where we were.
The bullpen construction is, or lack thereof, I think we should say, has been. I mean, it didn't go well for the Cubs in the offseason. Jed got outbid like time and again, and it was just kind of, this is what we end up with. We pick up Ryan Brazier, who is let loose by the Dodgers, and it's just there was nobody signed or traded for in the bullpen where you were just jumping up and down for joy, like this guy's just going to be a lockdown guy. I mean, you look at the bullpen and there's just nobody like that in the pen at all. Like no, who's the one guy that you would say, no matter what, you could rely on him in the bullpen?
Porter Hodge.
He's the closest it comes.
Really?
Because he gave up that run the other day. I mean, those are going to happen, right? Like that's going to happen.
Right.
But he's by far at this point. I mean, I think it's him and then a large gap before you get to the next guy. Because I'm not looking at Julian Merriweather and going like, yep, that's my lights out back end guy. Presley certainly isn't. We already talked about Pearson. Morgan hasn't been. We haven't seen Brazier. Tyson Miller's been hurt, and neither. And
Miller wasn't great in spring training. I mean, obviously
neither was Brazier. I'm looking at both
training.
of them. It's either the chicken or the egg. Either they legitimately had injuries that were causing the performance, or it was like, hey, you're either getting DFA'd or we got to IL you for a little bit to figure some stuff out. Those things kind of go. You're not supposed to be able to fake IL guys, but we know that happens in certain circumstances. But it's like none of that's going to work. I know a lot of people are still like Ben Brown, and I'm going, well, if he figures it out as a starter, he's far, far more valuable. There's a good note there. I'm surprised Jacob, who's in the Brad Keller, he's the president of the Brad Keller
I was about to.
Yeah. But
that's true.
Dude,
Keller has been good so far, and he's got the good stuff.
He's the winner so far. He's the early winner of the Jed Hoyer Exceeding Expectations Award for the season, because nobody had any expectations for that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Jacob did. To be fair,
I did, but I would say, first off, I'm glad that someone did bring up Keller. I was waiting to work him in there. You have Hodge, Merriweather, and Keller are your three most trusted options. I would say Keller is probably your number 2 option. His stuff is incredible. You look at his stuff, he has starter-wise stuff. Like he has 4 or 5 different pitches that he's mixing in there. The slider, that sweeper, the fastball, he's hitting 98 on his fastball. So there's your hard thrower. You want velocity. There's Brad Keller. And the best part is he can go more than just one inning. I really want them to push him to go 3 to 4. Don't think that's going to happen. I even said, hey, start him as a 5th starter, but did not receive positive feedback on that, unfortunately. But
given the alternatives, I don't think it's a bad idea.
It's not, because he's started before, and when they signed him back in late January, that was kind of the idea was, we'll have him relieve, but if he needs to start, he was sort of an emergency option. I would rather him than Colin Ray. Now, I'm against Colin Ray being on this team personally, just financial applications wise, but if you can get Keller to go 2 to 3, you're perfect. And this is what I want to say they did on Sunday. Now, Sunday's game was bonkers. It's 50 minutes into the game and the first inning isn't over. I was sitting in the bleachers and we were as confused as anybody. It was amazing. It was amazing. I thought this game and the game ended up only lasting like 3 hours and 10 minutes, but this is going to be an 8-hour game. It was insane. What you did is you have Brown and then Keller. That's the perfect recipe. We know that Brown probably can't go 6 to 7 innings to start. That's okay. Other starters can. He's not fully there yet. Maybe he never will be. If he can give you 4.5 to 5 innings, and then you have Brad Keller give you 2, cool. You only need 1 to 2 more innings. If you can give me a good outing from Ben Brown, Brad Keller, Porter Hodge to seal it up, maybe throw in I don't even want to say Caleb Thielbart, Julian Merriweather. Now, that's asking for the moon back. I understand that. But, piggybacking him with – piggybacking – I don't know why I said pony. Piggybacking him I don't know. I'm mixing up my
What are you
animals.
doing up there
I'm
in
mixing up
Iowa
my
or
animals.
Illinois? I mean,
Illinois is wild. Yeah, but if you can piggyback Brown and Keller, that's really good. Like, that is a good result. Keller has just been fantastic. Obviously, I did have high expectations for him. It felt like he was a lock to make the team midway through spring training, but he's even exceeded, I think, the team's expectations. They knew this guy was good. They knew they got a steal with getting him on an NRI, which I was very surprised that they were able to get him on that type of deal. But man, he's been lights out. Other than 1 to 2 bad outings, his stuff is incredible. Like, he is catching eyes around the league. It's not just Cubs fans be like, hey, this guy's pretty good. I've heard from multiple people that I know around the league, other teams that are like, hey, that Brad Keller guy, like, he's legit. If you could really pair him and Porter Hodge as the 8th, 9th, inning relievers when you get later into the season, you just got to figure out the rest of the bullpen. But we have nobody because Caleb Thielbar is walking 85 batters an inning. And then you bring in Eli Morgan, and he's giving up just rockets. And then you have Nate Pearson giving up rockets. It's good to have 2 to 3 guys that you trust in the bullpen, but then it's just such a sharp drop off. It's not good and then okay. It's good and then horrible. We need to find that median area of relievers.
Yeah, I mean, because there's always there should be guys that you can trust with a 3, 4, 5 run lead, right, in the 6th or 7th inning. Like, that's
there should
exactly what you have to be able to. I know that should go without saying, but it's almost like, and I know a lot of folks were kind of back and forth on it, because Julian Merriweather was kind of up and down, and he was unavailable a couple series ago, and that was kind of a problem. And then Presley was unavailable, and Hodge had thrown a couple. But that's what you run into when you've only got, and we've seen this before, when you've only got those 2 to 3 guys that you really trust, then it just becomes a crapshoot of like, I hope this guy's got it today. And it's like, look, I don't need the dude to go out there and strike out 3 batters every single time. But for the love of God, like, you got to be able, if you're going to give up contact, you can't walk guys. Right. And if you are going to walk guys, at least you got to be able to get ground balls to then wipe that runner off the base. The problem is Cubs relievers are giving up walks, and then they're giving up very hard contact to the outfield. Or if they do get infield contact, then, Justin Turner can't catch a routine relay throw. I mean, it wasn't a great throw, let's be honest, but still a one he's absolutely got to make.
Pro,
so there's
right.
You're putting everybody again. That's and here we go. Right. When you get to a roster that was kind of designed largely around, threading the needle or being budget conscious, whatever we want to talk about there, you then do have to do all the little things right. And largely the Cubs have, but we've seen what happens when you take that out of the hands of kind of, your main regulars, say your 10 or 11 regular position players, and then outside of their primary relievers, when you do have to dip into that second tier, it's been obvious that they've been exploited a little bit, that there are some things where this roster just isn't quite tight enough in some of those spots to where you can let that go. And that's where, again, I know it's like Jedediah's least favorite thing in the world to do, but spending money on the bullpen is what these good teams must do, because you cannot always outscore everybody by 4, 5, 6 runs and have that distance.
And then let's add into this the fact that now Justin Steele's on the IL, his annual trip to the IL. And the thing is that I was a little,
I didn't notice that until you pointed that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
The last 2 times he's pitched against the Rangers, he's gone on the IL immediately afterwards or during.
Well, but here's the thing is, like, I was a little concerned about Justin Steele because he was giving up hard contact in his first 3 games, and it was he giving up some runs. I mean, he kind of settled down a little bit there, but and then in his last outing against the Rangers, he looked just totally great, right? Like, everything was perfect, and then now he's injured. And so it would have made more sense to me if he would have, after those 3 kind of, not rough outings, but in each of them, there were innings where he gave up a lot of hard contact. And if he would have then been on the IL after that, that would have made more sense to me versus him having this great outing against the Rangers. What did he strike? How many did he strike out in that game? 8 batters,
8,
right?
I want to say
high of the season by 2. And he gave up only 3 hits over 7 innings. It looked great. And then he's on the IL. And so then we've got Colin Ray, who's, I guess, going to be the 5th starter for the Cubs.
Maybe. So NDM covers did mention Assad piggybacking off of Brown. Assad's not ready yet. Assad's still rehabbing. He's been okay, but he still has a few rehab starts, so he was not an option. I just wanted to mention that before I forgot. He was not an option. I don't think we'll see him till late April or early May. Jordan Wicks, Tommy Birch of beat writer in Des Moines for the Iowa Cubs, reported that he was scratched from his start. I believe his start today. And then Cade Horton went instead, and Cade Horton is throwing some heat once again. But Wicks was scratched from his start. Nothing is done there yet. No official move has been made. I assume that they will maybe fly him out to LA or have him waiting and ready in case they need him this weekend. But no move has been made there. Still sort of waiting to see. I believe Steele's start wouldn't be till Saturday or Sunday. So no reason to activate him until then. Might as well use the extra bullpen arm in Roberts until that time comes. And if you remember, Jordan Wicks pitched in LA against the Dodgers last year, and he got absolutely demolished. I don't have the exact stat line up, but I just remember from the ending of last season, he got absolutely crushed. So no, don't love that matchup, but would I rather him over Colin Ray? Yes.
Yeah, and what I wonder, because we kind of hinted at this earlier. Because right now it's Boyd on Friday, Brown on Saturday. With the day off, they can kind of push everything back. And I do wonder if they want to have Wicks available, if that is almost a piggyback move, to kind of have him available for that Brown start, assuming he's not going deep. Do you want to have somebody who can, because I'm always in favor of let's take care of the game at hand versus trying to stretch things out and hoping you can get to, whether you need to get there. Because I think what is the Sunday game is still TBD, right? I think on their starter.
I believe
was
so,
just trying to look at that. Yeah. So I don't think they've announced anybody, but that to me, it just reset it. The day off gives you a little bit of extra time. If you need Wicks, have him there by all means and let him go if you need to, whether that's Brown getting roughed up, whether it's just a matter of, I know they're very conscious of his innings and his pitches, just knowing that he has not pitched that much professionally. He's never really had a really deep season. And so you can't expect him to put up 7-8 innings for many games. And even if he's able to make 30 plus starts, I think that'd be incredible. But I just want to see them be able to put some guys out there to eat those innings properly, because let's face it, Steele or no Steele, they're coming up on just an absolute gauntlet of a stretch. I mean, they got to go. They're at the Dodgers. They're at the Padres. Then what? They come home. They get to play the Dodgers again. On what planet is it okay? The Cubs have not yet played a divisional opponent. They're going to play the Dodgers 3 separate times in 3 separate cities before actually facing anyone in their own division.
Yeah, right? It's a rough stretch.
The Cardinals don't come to Wrigley until July. This is insane.
That's insane.
3 at LA, 3 at San Diego, 3 back here against the D-backs, who are no slouch.
Who they've already played. Also, another opponent from the West.
Dodgers. And then 3 against the Phillies. It's that is a stretch. If they can come through that just 500 through that, and they're still going to have a winning record.
And that's all I'm saying. If they can be 3 below 500 over these next 15 games, and they're still at the end of 500, basically heading into May, right? Which is kind of what I think we've been saying. Other people have been saying, just weather this storm. And that's where I'm it does you no good to kind of play for next week or the next 3 games out or whatever. I'm just hey, get through this game, and then you can figure stuff out. You can make those personnel moves once you have to, knowing that Steele is out. I don't want them sitting there. If Wicks is going to be there, have him available, let him work long relief if that's what you need to do to get those innings, right?
And it doesn't get much better in May. They played 3-game series against the Pirates, but then it goes at Brewers versus the Giants, at the Mets, and then it gets a lot better. On the 12th of May, it goes Marlins, White Sox, Marlins, Reds, Rockies, Reds.
Mash Mervis going to have 5 home runs against them, but anyway.
Oh, he's going off.
Yeah,
you look at the schedule. The Cubs had the hardest April, and I want to say wacky. I saw this on Twitter. But then again, you can't trust anything on
Means it's
Twitter.
true.
That the Cubs had, yeah, it's 100% true, had the hardest month of any team being their April, and then the easiest month for any team being their May. We're already several games over 500. So like you said, there's some leeway. It's nice that we've done so well against these teams that even if we lose 2 of 3 in a series, or in the unfortunate case and likely that we get swept by one of these absolute like elite teams in the West, we still have that room. And is this their last West Coast trip of the year? Because if so, that would be fantastic, because I'm tired of games starting at 9 p.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sure.
That's the other, like, there was nothing better than that opening weekend and having all 3 120 starts for, 3 consecutive. It was just like, and that was actually, I was looking at it, I was like, this is kind of weird. It was the first time all season they've ever had, I think, even 2 games in a row start at the same time. Now, granted, some of them are only like 5 or 10 minutes apart, but like the start times in Arizona weren't consistent. The start times in Sacramento were not the same. And so it's just like this, it's nice to be able to count on something, and part of me is saying this as someone who runs a site as I do. And it's like, there's a cadence for our stuff. And if this game's starting at noon, this game's starting at 3, this game's starting at 10 o'clock at night. It's like, what are we doing? And then trying to stay up, and get things edited. And it's just, so it will be, but yeah, the West Coast stuff, man, doing all this early, I appreciate the weather aspects of it, but like, you just had them playing in the snow for the most part, like not heavy snow, but still freezing temperatures or thereabouts for multiple games in Chicago. Like, going back to the West Coast and then coming back to Chicago again isn't really that great. If you're going to do that, do it earlier. Like, they're already in Chicago. It's good now. Or I don't know, have them play in, say, Milwaukee, where they have a domed stadium, right? Like, you could do some games there. Why are we avoiding?
You're being far too logical.
Matchups? I don't like that.
Stop
I don't
that.
like
Why, and this is something that logistically probably wouldn't work. Why don't we have April or Wrigley opening day in May? Like, and I'm guessing the players wouldn't like being away from home that long or whatever, but I can't imagine it's fun to play in 30-degree weather. Why don't you just get a month road trip, and then you can have a month long homestand in the summer?
Yeah, well, they'd still get their 81 games at home.
Yeah, they'd still get the games.
They'd still get their 81 games, and it would be warmer.
Yeah,
the concentration of it is never going to happen, but
it would. I just think it would be nice because
but
I also want to know that it's going to be nice for opening weekend.
Yeah, or at the very least, you do that one, and then have them do. But here's the thing: we talk about the lack of divisional stuff. Like, it's not like there's a huge difference, especially like St. Louis and Cincinnati are far enough south that, like, generally it's not like you're talking about a tremendous change in temperature, but having the lack of lake effect issues and things like that, in a lot of cases, like, why not do that? And then you can go to Chicago, you can open up, play your 3 games, and then go down to St. Louis for one, come back to Chicago, go to Cincinnati. Those are easy trips. Go to Milwaukee, whatever. You could load up some of those to where you're staying close enough to home that the travel's not a pain in the ass, like going out to, because again, they certainly haven't been on the East Coast. They keep going west, right? That's cool. And they keep bringing in, like, you're bringing in these AL and NL West opponents like crazy. Like, how, again, they're going to play the Dodgers, Padres, and Diamondbacks a combined 7 series before they face a divisional opponent. That makes this like that just, it baffles me. And it has nothing to do with the fact that, those are actually all 3 good teams too. That's the other problem. It's like, those are all contending teams. I mean, one obviously juggernaut, and then the other 2 are going to fight for those wild card spots. But and that part is kind of frustrating in and of itself. But the Cubs aren't an NL West team. Why can they not play in their own division? It baffles me and bothers me at the same time.
It'd be nice if we had some understanding of how and why they constructed the schedule the way that they did. This
balanced schedule thing is the dumbest in the world to me. The way they've done it.
The whole schedule is weird. Last year, the last game they played against the Cardinals was August 4th. The last game they played against the Brewers was July 24th. So from July 25th and on, they had no games against what should have been their main opponent in the division and what was the division champion. They had no games against them. No divisional games. They had some games against the Pirates in early September and late August, but that was it. And then you have 3 against the Reds to end the season. But you look at that last month, and sure, it was supposedly easy with Rockies, A's, Nationals, but there's no Cardinals, there's no Brewers. How is that good? Assuming that this team should be successful, hey, it's going to be a battle towards the end. So if you're Major League Baseball, you want the Cubs playing the Cardinals. You want the Cubs playing the Brewers for the division in September. Instead, it's, hey, here's the Athletics, here's the Rockies, which sure will take them. And this is for last year, that sure will take them. But why do we have to wait that long without facing the division opponent? And it's because they cut off 10 games each per team, but that's annoying.
Yeah.
This year it's different. They play in September. They play, the Pirates, the Reds, and then the Cardinals. They close out with the Cardinals. So, I mean, it'll be better this year. And at the end of the day, it's like I said, who knows how they go about setting this schedule. One thing that I did want to touch on that Evan, you wrote about is Dansby Swanson. I mean, we've talked about the offense and how well
I didn't write about Dansby Swanson.
Who did?
I think Jacob did.
I'm sorry. Jacob did.
Jacob
yeah,
not
did,
me.
yeah.
Oh, you guys look alike, so I couldn't really tell.
It's very similar.
Yeah, it's a hat, But that Jacob wrote about, sorry, is the Dansby Swanson and the power that he's been showing. Now, granted, it's early, but he's got 4 home runs already. And I mean, he only had 16 last year? Yeah, 16. And he really hasn't had, he had some power there the last 2 years with Atlanta getting up to 27. But what's going on there is, and we talk about the bat and, just the different changes that maybe that has a different impact that has, but really what's happening with Dansby Swanson?
Well, you mentioned he's ahead by several games home run pace wise. Alex Cohen, and I mentioned this in the article, Alex Cohen of Marquee Sports Network posted on April 8th, so back on Tuesday, and said it took Dansby Swanson until May 5th, game 35, to reach 4 home runs, and he hit it on April 8th. So he's about a month ahead of pace. I think the torpedo bat does have something to do with it, but he is hitting the ball hard. He is squaring up the ball and making really solid contact. I like what Evan mentioned about the weather and how it's cold, harder to hit home runs out in Wrigley at this time.
Yeah.
His squared up rate is 84th percentile. He's squaring up 31.9% of the baseballs he sees. So not only are you getting the incredible defense that we normally see from Dansby Swanson, his expected slugging is 612. That's insane, especially for Dansby Swanson. That's 91st percentile, and I keep using percentile.
He just looks like he's hitting the ball harder. If you look at his at bats, he just looks like he's hitting the ball harder.
Yeah.
No, he is. And yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Nope.
I would say I love using the percentiles more just because it compares it to the rest of the league. And 91st percentile with expected slugging, that's incredible, especially for someone like Dansby Swanson. His expected slugging last year was 416. So he's 196 points higher. Will it stay like that? No, it won't. But that is so much higher that you have to think, hey, maybe that'll stay. Maybe something's changed. He's only striking out at an 18.5% rate, 6 points less than last season. I was kind of a worry at times was, man, he's striking out a lot when he doesn't make contact. He's doing fine. All of his offensive stats, you look at it, the average has dropped. The average has dropped by 31 points. He hit for a 242 average last year, 244 in 2023. So he's hovering right around that 243 average, give or take. If you bear with me there on that average for his batting average, he's down to 211. So the drastic drop there. But his OPS is up by 53 points. So he took the drop in average, but then his OPS skyrocketed. Kind of what we wanted to see from Nico.
I'm cool
Warner.
with that.
That's
right. I'm okay with that.
That's what we wanted to see from Nico. We're like, hey, we sacrifice some average, sacrifice some hits, and hit for more power. That's exactly what Dansby did. And again, on top of all the offense, he's a wizard on the field and a great teammate, which you can never beat having a good mentor in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think with him, he and Horner are both so much has been made about these torpedo bats and people who don't know any better or MLB should ban them. Folks, you got to understand, they were being used last year. They've been around. People can't just bring new equipment into a game and just use it without it having been vetted and approved by Major League Baseball, right? Like this stuff's been in the works for quite a while. But those two, and I believe, and I didn't see any reporting on it, and it could just be that my broadcast wasn't real good, but I thought PCA was swinging one, which would make sense. He swung one at the end of last year, ditched it because he didn't really at the time like the field, but then he got off to a pretty cold start. Looked like he was swinging one the other day. I didn't know if that was part of his 3-hit showing as well. But anyway, back to so Swanson and Horner. Horner in particular, who's got just incredible barrel control, almost never swings and misses. So he's a guy who you can pretty much bet. Like the whole point, the for most hitters, I don't think there's going to be any difference in the torpedo bat because they're not as consistent, or they are not consistent enough. Like I brought this up, I think on our last one with Jacob, I used the example of Aaron Judge, who the whole point with Aaron Judge is he's a huge man swinging a huge bat to create as much margin. Aaron Judge can miss hit a ball and send it 375 feet oppo and still go, to what somebody else would be like shy of the warning track by 20 feet, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to do the torpedo bat because that's going to take away those miss hits that he gets off the end of the bat that are going to fly. But with somebody like Dansby, and we talk about it, my guess, and I do not know what his normal contact profile, like where he's actually hitting the ball in the bat. My guess, though, would be that kind of like what they brought up with Anthony Volpe, was that most of his miss hits, a lot of his contact was down more toward the label of the bat than the actual fat part down toward the end. I would assume that Swanson was a little bit more the same, which would, and part of this is just I'm backing into this logically because we talked about he's not, and I looked this up, and he's actually, his bat speed is actually lower so far. So if his bat speed is lower, but his exit velocities on average are significantly higher, what that tells us is he is squaring the ball up much, much better. As Jacob alluded to there, a lot of that could very well be that he's got the torpedo bat with that mass a little bit lower in the handle than what it, or lower in the barrel than what it normally would have been. And so the balls that he's hitting, he's making more flush contact, getting more of the mass and the hardness of that barrel on them. So for someone like him, it's going to work. For someone like Judge, it is not. And that's why a lot of people are like, oh, this is going to take over. Like, it's really not. Because if you do normally miss toward the end of the bat, then taking mass away from that is going to be bad for you in the long run, unless you perfect barrel it. Again, we're seeing that with Swanson. I think we're seeing some more of that with Horner, who, again, the power is not so much there, but I think with him, with Horner, I don't want to see him necessarily launching more out of the park. I want to see him getting it into the gap more, letting him use that speed, get on there and get hard. Between the two of them, like if they're hitting like this, a combination of average and power, and with the running that Swanson does, with the running that Horner does, the fact that they're both Gold Glove caliber, like, and then you got PCF, but like that up the middle defense is just, that is, I salivate over that.
And it's chaos on the bases as well. I mean, we call
all of them. John Birdie, the speed merchant, just stealing every base. Yeah,
I'm surprised he didn't try to steal home that one. And that one
he should have.
We talk about, yes, he should have. When we talk about Swanson, though, looking at his barrel rate, it's around where he normally is, around 11%. And so he's not barreling the ball up necessarily anymore. He's definitely hitting the ball into the air a lot more. His launch angle is way higher than it's been historically, and maybe that has something to do with the bat. But I think it's really interesting when you look at the fact that he's not really barreling it up much more, but his launch angle and his exit velo are both up. His exit velo right now is higher than it's been in his career. Now, granted, it's just a few games into the season, but you're seeing him hit the ball in the air a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with a slower swing, that's the interesting, right? And this is something I think we need to put a pin in and continue to follow, because much, rightly so, has been made about increased bat speed, right? Because I don't know if we've gone over this, but we probably have, so I won't belabor it too much. But the before, I remember the old axiom being like, if somebody throws it hard, just let the pitcher do the work. If they throw hard, then all you got to do is make contact, which is not actually true, because pitch speed only accounts for the coefficient of that is 0.2 when we look at relation to exit velocity. Pitch speed is 0.2. So if it's a 100-mile-an-hour pitch, that's going to be good for 20 miles an hour at max, 20 miles an hour of exit velocity. Bat speed is 1.2. So if I have a 70 mile an hour swing, that's going to be worth 84 miles an hour of exit velocity, right? So as you could tell, then the harder I swing, that's going to have a 6 times greater effect on exit velocity, relatively speaking. So like Pete Crow Armstrong swinging harder. Now, part of me wonders, is he doing that and kind of maybe sacrificing a little bit of back control? Because there's always like everything, there's an inflection point with everything, right? Ideally, we'd swing harder and have better contact, but that's not always true. But we also don't want to swing too slow. You could be Luis Ariz and swing slower and make all kinds of contact, but you're only ever going to hit singles, and the value there is significantly limited. Just like what Nick Madrigal, he's just like a way better Nick Madrigal. With other things aside, right?
That's
when
an
we look at
interesting
Swanson, but that's what's interesting with Swanson is he is swinging slower, not by a ton, but what I wonder is, right, Jacob, you referenced the lower strikeout rate, and here's what I wonder: did he, right? He's got a little, like, slightly more control over the barrel, and the other thing we have to consider is moving the weight of that bat is going to change your swing profile. Like, that's not every hitter wants it to be kind of mid-loaded. Some want it more end-loaded. It's a better feel. I would hypothesize that he prefers more of that barrel load, a little lower in toward the hands than what he had gotten before, and that's allowing him to control the bat through the zone a little bit better. And as such, I already referenced the stuff about how he's hitting it, but with his barrel rate not being much higher, the fact of it is he's just being able to square it up at the right spot on that barrel more so than he was with that slower speed. So that's, but that's something I want to look at, because again, normally swing speed is like, so his EVs are way up despite the slower swing speed, which runs contrary to what you would think would be the case, knowing what we do about that. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And that's, but again, when we talk about torpedo bats, it's not just, hey, bat bad, bat do work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many factors that go into these things, and I really do believe some dudes would be worse swinging them. Swanson maybe is a guy, if this keeps up even close to this pace, I think we could argue that, like, the bat is helping him for a variety of reasons.
And is he just using the bat for the first time this season?
To the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
I think so, because we have him. I know you mentioned PCA and Horner. Michael Busch has been swinging it some. And the Cubs were one of the first teams on this. I like what you mentioned, and plug to the
Japan too. But
a lot of people have been doing this. The Cubs were on this as much as last year. We discussed it with Brett Bateman on the Cubby Climb, so free ad for that. And he said, I was like, or I believe it was Blake that asked, "Are you interested in using this?" And he said, I'm not going to turn down more exit velocity. And so I think the Cubs are going to very quickly, and other teams, as we're seeing, order shipments of these and be like, hey, do you want to use them? You don't have to, but we're seeing good results. That April 8th game with Swanson really stuck out to me, not only because he had 4 RBIs, which, is clearly very good. He had a home run, and then he had a clutch hit to win the game. 6-6, bases loaded. The pitch was in on him. It's kind of hard to show here for the people that didn't watch the game. Go back and check out that highlight. But the pitch was in, and he was able to get his barrel inside and just sort of drop it into right field, and it scores 2. So that was something that it wasn't whoa, he just hit that 120 miles an hour, but he dropped into right field. He did what needed to be done, and that's what ended up winning them the game. So he's been, other than Tucker, which is kind of a given, so I wouldn't mind giving it to Swanson, my early MVP for this Cubs team, albeit 2 weeks in. Putting Kyle Tucker's obvious greatness aside, greatness and royalty of King Tuck, Dansby Swanson's right up there with him.
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see where we stand after this West Coast swing. As we were mentioning, the Cubs play the Dodgers starting tomorrow. First game, 9:10 Central, Yamamoto versus Boyd. Saturday, 8:10. Hey, you get a little earlier. Brown versus Sasaki. And then Sunday, 6:10. So it gets a little better. Probably what is this, 3:10? That's an afternoon game. That's probably Sunday Night Baseball, I guess, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. There you go. I always enjoy Sunday Night Baseball when the Cubs are on it.
No.
Well, I mean, it's the announcers, but you can listen on the MLB app. Well, I don't know if it's on Sunday Night Baseball. If you can listen on the watch it on the MLB app, I think you can.
When it's on Apple TV,
sure.
you can choose the audio and sync it up with the radio audio, that's like the best. At the picture on Apple TV is far superior to any other service that I've seen thus far. Certainly Marquee, which goodness, the Marquee interface is better. But I don't know if anybody else has done this. If you watch on the Marquee app on the I don't know if it does this on the phone, but definitely on your TV. If you're watching a game and you do not hit the back button and go to the home page of Marquee before exiting, the audio will remain on. I've done this on multiple televisions. Okay. And I don't mean will remain on when you've exited Marquee. I mean, you can turn your television off and the audio remains on.
They want you to listen to the game?
How is that even possible?
I mean, it's not a glitch. It's a feature. It is. And the first time I did it, I was like, okay, just, my TV's acting stupid. And nope. That is if you just, try to hit the home button, which normally I would with any other app. Like, okay, I want to go back to my home screen. No, the audio remains on in perpetuity. Wow. And this happened once. Like, I didn't think about it. Right. I was like, oh, this happens sometimes with TVs. If the internet's kind of laggy or whatever, you'll see like your apps aren't really populating as well. No big deal. So I just, I turned the TV off. I leave and I ran some errands, whatever. I came back 2 hours later. Marquee audio still going on a TV that is off. So anyway, that's like good on them for finding a way to weasel into our ears, regardless of whether we want that.
They don't need electricity.
I did want to mention Tom Cosgrove. Does that name ring a bell to either of you guys?
For some reason,
a bell. I'm not sure why.
Padres lefty Demon in 2023.
Oh yeah.
I just got a notification from the Real app. I don't know if either of you guys use that. It says Tom Cosgrove to the Cubs. So nothing is done, and so I sent some messages. Nothing's done yet, but something to keep an eye on because it's a sports tracking app for scores and stuff, and they notify you about any roster moves. And I guess you can't see it with my blurring thing, but it says Tom Cosgrove to the Cubs. So lefty, had a really down year, could get in the Zombro Hodavi lab, but wanted to throw that out there because that's something to definitely keep.
Another project. This is all the Cubs need is just another guy they can get on the cheap.
Why not?
Why not? I mean, that's all it is for right now. They're just trying to find recyclable parts until they can get to the point where they pull off a trade, which it's painful. I mean, every game that goes by, I'm just like, all right, we got to wait till July, right? Because it's not like they're swinging a major trade in the middle of April. But man, the failure to really go out there and get another bullpen arm is really
it's out there. Okay.
Out.
Yep.
We talk about Iowa and MLB just recently released rankings that the Iowa Cubs are the number one team in their minor league team kind of rankings, and for good reason, right? And so at some point, like you've got Neely, you've got Horton, you've got Birdsell down there. I mean, there are some guys that. And Neely's on the 40-man roster. I don't know if Birdsell is. I think Horton is, right?
Is he? Oh.
I don't think so. Oh, so Horton's not. So, but there's some options there.
They're not going to use Horton as a starter, though. I don't think. But based on his limited usage so far, I think they want to let him get enough runway. I mean, maybe they pull him up and have him make some start. But like he strikes me very much as using the Justin Steele template, right? Where like and Steele had a longer runway, being a high school guy when they drafted him, but could not stay healthy in the minors to save his life, right? Like that, it took him a long time to kind of get through and figure that out. They did the same thing with Alzolay, who was supposed to have been a starter. They did the same thing with Keegan Thompson, who was supposed to have been a starter, right? And they brought them up as relievers, which I can't argue with that too much. Like you bring them in there mid-season at whatever point. Let them build up some innings, get some experience coming out of the bullpen where you can use them in advantageous spots if possible. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder if they kind of let Horton go this first half and then try to swing him into a relief role to maintain, keep things going. Because, dude, that guy coming out of the bullpen, being able to throw, like, if he can just cut it loose, we look at the Brad Keller effect of, like, you move from starter to bullpen. You don't have to save your arm to go 5, 6 innings, 7 innings. You can just let it eat for 1 or 2. Dude, Horton would be an animal if he's coming out of the pen with that fastball and slider. Woo! That'd be fun.
Well, and the one thing that I don't want to get overly concerned about, but Ben Brown, he's had a pretty rough go of it. He's got the stuff, obviously, but I'm just concerned that maybe he belongs in the bullpen versus starting. And I don't want him to fail too much in the starting role that it gets in his head and he turns into like an Adbert Alzolay type situation.
The Cubs are designating Caleb Killian for assignment.
Ooh.
Wow.
Okay.
So there's a rant bomb for you. We are also acquiring Tom Cosgrove from the Padres.
There you go. Okay. In exchange for just a cash deal?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that Chris Bryant trade was for nothing.
Did not net a whole lot at the end of the day.
Thank God for Javier Baez, baby.
They got some cash for Alexander Canario. So that's
all those trades, though.
Really
I mean,
cool.
like if you look at them, and I don't want to break them down right now. We don't have time, but Javi, that trade, boy, God, man, I tell you, Javi's just he's a gift that keeps on giving. He was great when he was with the Cubs. It was awesome watching him play, and then he brings back PCA. And then he goes to Detroit and signs this huge deal and is just like an anchor. Although he has been playing well the start of the season.
The Cubs have done much better. Yeah, I would say overall, Jed does way, way better when he trades away relievers than he does in the big name trades. Right? I mean, like those have actually worked out fairly well. Like trading Andrew Chafin, not a bad deal. Trading David Robertson, great deal. and so far, I would argue that maybe the Scott Efros thing didn't work out as well as what people had thought it would when Hayden Wesneski first came in. But hey, whatever. I feel like that's that makes me feel like Jed is like much more. He's a mid-market guy, right? It's those middle deals. It's not the small ones. It's not the big deals for the big name blockbuster players. Mm-hmm. It's the ones kind of in the middle. The Kyle Tucker one. We'll see how that works out. I think we can properly examine that in hindsight. But I don't know.
It feels good, but geez, you sure should extend him. I mean, making that trade, not extending it makes no sense.
Very good for a year. So
yeah. Well, he's got a year left on his contract.
Yeah.
The Kyle Tucker stuff, I did want to talk about for a second. Sorry, I kind of got distracted there. If we don't extend him, I cannot wait for the day on Twitter if he signs somewhere else. Cubs Twitter is going to be literal havoc. But the Vladdy thing, I don't think the Vladdy contract really messes with that at all.
No,
because age, it's a big age difference. I don't know if you guys saw Lance Brozdowski, and then obviously Blake mentioned as well. He mentioned that stuff that Lance put out agency wise, and he talked to some people in the agency. Doesn't seem like he'll need $500 million. Now it'll probably end up there. But man, and I know we've talked about it a lot. It's just, if we don't extend Kyle Tucker, he's a superstar.
Maybe Jed surprises us. Maybe he surprises us and does something.
He's gonna have to. If they don't extend Kyle Tucker, they're never, ever, ever signing a superstar free agent. There's just no. We've already seen them.
Who would it be? Yeah,
right.
What would the situation be
on so many others? Right, it makes sense. Like,
yeah,
the Bryce Harper one still chaps my ass more than any of the other ones because like that price was not exorbitant in the least, and looks even better as each year goes on in terms of where the market has gone. But if you're not going to get this guy who you traded for, who is there in Chicago for it this year, who you can pitch all you want, sell all you want to this dream. Knowing what you had to do, knowing how many guys you bypassed, if not him, it won't be anyone, because there's nobody that's going to come along in the next several years who's going to be available, who's going to be close to prime age, who makes sense for this team. I don't see it happening.
Who is it, and when would it be if it's not now?
Nobody, and if it is anybody, it would have to be after something has markedly changed with baseball's financial structure or Cubs ownership. That's it. There's no way they're greenlighting something else. So anyway, I'm done bitching.
Well, we could talk about these things all day, but unfortunately, we're not going to do that. But hey, everyone, thanks for joining us. It's been great having you. Please follow us we're everywhere. We're on all the socials, the Twitter,
everywhere.
Instagram, Facebook,
The
TikTok. We
the
got all the
TikTok and
things.
Instagram have
YouTube.
been doing really well. They've been doing really well. I
Doing
did want to
numbers.
say if you guys could doing numbers, especially about Evan's hat. So Evan, we
Yeah.
may need a
Yes.
new weekly segment about Evan's hat of the week.
Yeah, just
But yeah, follow on those. Thank you guys for the support. It's been a fun beginning of the season, but follow on Instagram and TikTok especially. We're getting a bunch of clips up there, bunch of fun stuff. Yeah, I just want to throw that in there. Make sure to follow over there. We're doing some fun things. It's gonna be a good year.
cool.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone.